mind, I'm going to mute you, June, and I'm going to start the intro music, and I'll let you know when to come on.
Okay.
Welcome to the dark side of the paranormal with your hosts, June Lundgren and Wendy Stanton. Stay with us as we discuss all things paranormal. Welcome to the dark side.
Now,
Welcome to another episode of The Dark Side of the Paranormal with our special guest, Tim Maile. Tim is a paranormal investigator and radio show personality. Welcome to our show, Tim.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to get. I remember when I was on your show a few years back.
Yeah, it was a few years ago.
It's been a while. So, what got you into investigations?
It all started back in 2006 when I bought this home that I'm in, and had activity in the home and didn't really know where to turn to. So one night, out of dumb luck, I was watching TV and a commercial came on for ghost hunters, and my mind was blown. I didn't know this stuff existed. I didn't know people looked for it. And I tried to get in contact with scenes in my area, and I guess thankfully none of them got back to me. And I was kind of forced to educate myself, and I think it was about a year after that I really gave serious consideration to creating a team and trying to help as many families as we could. And here we are 11 years later, and doing investigations, radio show, little TV, but most importantly, still helping families. So it's gotten a lot bigger than I ever thought it would.
Yeah, sometimes these things have a life of their own. They just kind of pick up and start snowballing. But a lot of times it's good that you educate yourself because, there are so many different ways of doing investigations out there. Some people don't prefer not to do them with anybody who has abilities of any kind, and they just want, the video, audio evidence, and they don't really want to use people with abilities. What's your feeling on that?
In the beginning, I think I was like that, but I had a bad experience with the medium when I first started, and it kind of turned me off to the whole idea of mediums for a while. About 2 years in, I met Scotty Warwick, fantastic psychic medium, and that really changed my opinion on mediums, and I started working with them more, and I kind of I guess our team kind of uses mediums as the final piece of the puzzle. We don't want to rely on a medium completely,
right?
Just because it's good to be able to validate the medium also.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we've been using them since 2010. Worked with Scotty Warwick, John Cassidy. I've worked with Cassidy Ray, April Roan. So folks that I'm comfortable with, that I believe in, and
people that you trust. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the problem. These days you have so many people out there that are saying they're one thing, and they're, I've run into, because I do demonic removals, I've run into people say they're demonologists, and it's like, and then, they take people's money and stuff like that. And I just, that's not what you're all about. You don't do that. That's why I don't call myself a demonologist. I just call myself a demon seer, like they do in the old country in Ireland.
Yeah, going back to 2008, doing this 11 years, I've turned down opportunities where clients have tried to give me money. I just, in my position, I don't think I wouldn't feel right taking money because I can't offer them guarantees on results, and I certainly don't think people should pay to feel comfortable in their home. So it's for folks that want to get into this because they think it's going to be full of fame and fortune. You're going to be sorely mistaken.
That's for sure. Yeah, it's all about, for me. I was helping people with their paranormal problems long before it was cool. I've been doing this for all my life, and so you just went quietly and you helped the people out, and that was it. You never did anything else.
It's kind of how it goes. I mean, I've had people come up to me at events and ask me, where do I get to where you are? And I always find that question to be funny because I really don't consider myself at any level, I guess. But for me, I never really tried to be noticed. It just was the work that we did, and we naturally got noticed because of the work we did. So my biggest piece of advice would be to just not try so hard. Don't try so hard for people to notice you, because if you do the work and you're respected in the field, that notoriety and that respect from your peers will come on its own.
Yeah, that goes a long way. It's like, we specialize. My group, Ghosts and Girls Paranormal, we specialize. And not many people do what we do, but, we don't do it for fame or fortune. We do it because there are people out there who really, really need help. People with, we've come across people where the negatives are killing their animals and attacking the children and stuff. And, that's not good. That's never good. So, what's your most memorable investigation?
Most memorable investigation probably goes all the way back to 2010. We worked on the case for about 2 years, actually, and was the reason I met Scotty Rourke. It involved a 2-year-old boy that was in foster care back in 1967. He was in the home for a matter of weeks, was rushed to the hospital, pronounced dead, and they ruled it strenuous child's play at the time. Like I said, we worked on the case for 2 years. Long story short, the foster father had done some horrible things to this little boy and caused him to die. And the little boy had been there for 45 years at the time.
Yeah.
So with Scotty's help on the final investigation, we were able to move along this little boy and give him a little bit of peace. And it really was the case that made me realize how important the work we do is, and honestly changed me as a person, because it made me care more about others than myself. And at the age of, I think it was 35 at the time, I'm not so sure I did. I was worried about, what game was on this weekend, what me and my friends were going to do. And, and here I am in this field and working on this incredibly important case. And it really made me think, and it really made me realize that, there's more to this than a lot of people realize. And it's so very rewarding when you're able to help not only the family, but the spirit.
Yeah. It makes you put your life into perspective. Sort out your priorities. It really does. The priority for me is to help family and spirit as well. If you go into a place and there's active spirits, that are stuck there, for me, the best thing is to help them cross. But if they don't want to cross, that's fine too. It's all about free will. But, sitting down, talking to the living, talking to the dead, and just, making them understand each other, helping them to understand each other. That's very important.
Yeah, I think a lot of times in this field, we encounter clients that simply are fearing what they don't understand. And a lot of what we think is evil and negative turns out to not be evil and negative at all. It's just a misconception of the activity and what they're trying to get across.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you're able to explain some of these things to people, and just the knowledge that they have at that point, you can see the fear just kind of melt away.
Yeah, it's usually, the first thing they think of is something negative. And 99% of the time, it's just grandma or grandpa or somebody passing through that says, hey, pay attention. I'm here. Help me.
Yeah, that goes, and this is my own personal opinion. It doesn't have to be the opinion of anybody else, but a lot of times when you hear of people getting touched or slapped or scratched, we don't know what kind of energy it takes for a spirit to touch you. We don't know what kind of energy it takes for them to make contact and how long they've been trying and how frustrated they get, and to the point where they finally are able to make contact and they scratch you, but they're not really meaning to scratch you. And I think sometimes we jump to conclusions in this field, and and I've been guilty of that too. I'm certainly not perfect, but I think sometimes just a little experience can go a long way. And I know, looking back 11 years ago, some of the cases that we did, it's almost comical, how far we've come and how much my views have changed and the things that we do on investigations, the style that we have. So it's important to evolve in this field also.
Yeah, you have to grow. You have to learn from your experiences and grow. It's never ending. Just when you think that you know everything that there is to know about it, something new comes along, and it kind of, makes you reassess what you think you know about the paranormal. So, when you're at work, do people know what you do for a living? I mean, for a side?
It's actually kind of funny because I've never really been one to hide what I do. So yeah, folks know, and you always have the minority that want to make fun of you for what you do, and it is what it is. But I was moved to a different job temporarily back in the fall last year, and they had a new hire lunch type thing, and I'm a supervisor where I work, so I was having this lunch with management, and they were trying to get to know me, and they asked what I did outside of work, and I said, well, I might as well just get this over with. I look for ghosts. And 90% of the room, their jaw just dropped, and nobody knew what to say. And it was funny seeing those looks, because you knew who you could talk to about it and who you couldn't. And, so going forward, there were people that made snide comments, but for the most part, it was positive, because I used my work in the paranormal field and the little bit of notoriety that I've gotten, and I use that to raise money for the charity that I started. And you take something that people might not understand, and you turn it into an incredibly positive thing because of the charity.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your charity. It's Photographs for Pooches, isn't it?
It is. Back in 2013, I started Photographs for Pooches. It all goes back to 2006 when I bought this house. About a month later, I went to the shelter, and I got my boy Murray. He's a pit lab mix. Brought him home. I was going through a lot, and he was beaten as a puppy. He was a rescue. So we bonded rather quickly. And I was going through some tough times and some depression. And a few months into having him, I had a suicide attempt. There's no easy way to say that. And he came into the room, put his head down on my arm, and I stopped. It snapped me out of it. And since that day, I've thanked him every day for saving my life. And if he hadn't have been there, I don't think I'd be here either. So back in 2013, I was starting to get more and more opportunities in the paranormal field and doing convention appearances and things like that. And when you go to a convention, they give you a table and you're able to sell whatever you want. And I didn't have anything. So I thought, if I could take this opportunity and turn it into a positive, I should. And it came up with Photographs for Pooches. And at the time, it was just going to be, photos of Murray and I, and he was going to sign them with his paw, and I was going to personalize them, and we would donate any money we raised to a shelter in the area of the event. And, here we are, almost 6 years later, and it's turned into, an entity of its own, really. I mean, we're doing Potograph's exclusive events, and we got one coming up in Michigan here in a couple of weeks. And all the money that we raise through ticket sales, raffles, donations, it all goes to the shelter, and we're donating it to Monroe SPCA out of Dundee, Michigan, on March 9th, and that weekend we're going to cross $30,000 in total donations. So pretty incredible to think that an idea back in April of 2013 has turned into this. So incredibly proud. I owe it all to Murray. I got some great friends in the paranormal field. John Cassidy, Jackie Cassidy, Tim Woolworth, Scott Tepperman, Dustin Perry. They've all helped me get to this point. And Tim Rian. The list goes on. Deb DeRuse, RJ DeRuse. I haven't gotten to where we are by myself, that's for sure. And I could probably fill up the hour just thanking people, but it's been incredible. The time and money and the effort that people have put into it, and just being able to do that and make a difference is pretty incredible.
It's a worthy cause. It's like I'm an animal communicator as well, so I donate time for animal communication because I feel it's very important to if there's a problem with a dog or cat or what have you, that we get to the bottom of it so that both of them can be happy, both the human and the animal can be happy. It's very important. My problem is I like animals more than I like people.
If I'm being honest, I feel the same way. Not the people that help us with these events. It's just people in general. I can't go to the grocery store without getting mad, just because people treat each other so awful. So
yeah, they do. I just don't understand it. The more I see of things, I signed so many petitions, my finger gets tired. It's like I'm all about animal support and stuff, and I love it. It's just, it's just for me that's special. If I did nothing else, it would be the animals.
It's definitely rewarding.
Yeah. When Murray was younger, did you ever take him on any investigations? No, I haven't, and I'll explain why. What we do, and June, I'm sure you can attest to this, we choose to do, and at times it can become dangerous. I mean, that's just a fact, just a fact of life. And I've made that decision. The people that I go into those homes and buildings with made that decision. Right.
I don't think it's my right to make that decision for him, and take him into a building that could be dangerous for him, just to see if he can help me communicate with a ghost. I've never felt that was the right thing to do. So yeah, I've never taken him on an investigation.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't, if they wanted to come, they'd ask me to come, but they don't want to come, and I don't want to put them in danger. So it's best. I have a couple of 5-month-old puppies right now. They're sisters. They're half pit and half Rottweiler, and they're just full of energy. But I would never take an animal into anywhere where there's even a remote possibility of, them being in danger, because that's not a good thing. They have their own rights, just like we do, and they have their own feelings. They get scared too, and I don't want any of my dogs being afraid. So, who were your biggest supporters for your paranormal investigation? For your career in paranormal, was it your family? Was it friends? How does that work for you?
My family's still not sold on what I do. My mom is a huge supporter because she's my mom. I think I still don't think she completely understands what I do, but she's supportive because she's my mom and she loves me, and I love her too. The rest of my family, they could care less. And honestly, if I go back to when I first started the team, the friends I had then compared to the friends I have now, I don't talk to any of those people anymore. I've surrounded myself with people that are like-minded. Most of my friends are in the paranormal field. As far as my biggest supporters, John and Jackie Cassidy have been huge supporters. Tim Woolworth, Scott Tepperman, Todd Arnold. I mean, Todd Arnold is, my best friend in the world, and he helped me found Fox City's paranormal team. We've been running that thing together for 11 years, and couldn't be prouder to go on this adventure with him. So, there's a lot of people that have helped me get to where we are. The entire Fox City's paranormal team. I mean, they've all put their time and effort into this team and built it into what it is. And I get all the credit. I usually say I get most of the credit, but honestly, all of the credit ends up going to me, and it shouldn't be that way because, they put their time and effort into, they spend time away from their friends and family helping complete strangers too. So
yeah, it's a team effort. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're fantastic people, and they make me look pretty good. So, I can't complain.
What's your dream place to investigate?
I don't know if I'm weird or if I'm just boring when it comes to that question, but honestly, I don't get impressed by the commercial buildings. Like Waverly seems like it would be a neat place to be. I've never been there. My dream investigation is that next family that emails us and needs help. And they say, hey, my child can't sleep at night because they're afraid. And if we're able to go in there and help them and that child can sleep through the night, then that's my next dream investigation. So I'm pretty simple. Always looking.
It's an honorable thing. I mean, come on,
Yeah, always looking to the next opportunity to help a family, and that's really what it's always been about for us. And I mentioned Todd. If I ever thought differently, Todd would get me back in line because we share that same passion for what we do, and it's always been the goal is to help families.
Yeah, it's important for you to be grounded, in whatever that you do, and it's that way with Wendy and I. We keep each other grounded. You have to, because it's like there is no room for big heads in the business. You just go out, help the people. I had a client contact me a couple of days ago, and she's been, retired nurse, and she's been having problems in her house, paranormal activity. And it's all about getting to them as quickly as I can to help them resolve their issues. And, that's for us, the client comes first.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't want to get too preachy because that's really not my place. But, I think people should at least understand that side of the paranormal, should experience it before they just concentrate on going into these famous places. Because there is a lot more to this than what you see on TV. There's a lot more to this than having fun. If you end up taking a case that's in somebody's home and you don't have any experience with that, you could really get in over your head and really do more harm than good, quite honestly, if you don't know what you're doing and you're dealing with the family. And, there's been decisions that we've made on investigations that had we made the wrong decision, could have completely changed that investigation and in turn could have done more harm than good for that family. So it's a fine line, and there's a lot of responsibility there.
There is. You have to, you have to consider the people that are there, and we have just 2 on our team, and just 2 of us, and I would have to say that Wendy is the more diplomatic of the 2 of us. It's like I like talking to them, to the people and stuff like that, but I want to help them as quickly as I can because, we had one case where we were called in and the animals were being killed and the baby was being attacked and the grandmother was being attacked. So it's all about getting there and helping them. And, Wendy explains everything and says, this is how we work. This is what we do. Do you have any questions? Or the whole thing, what have you experienced? The whole 9 yards there, and then afterwards, you have to get them help. If they need help, if they need to talk to somebody, a counselor or something like that, it's up to you to not just go there and say, okay, we did it, bye. You don't do that. You don't leave people hanging. We're always good at, keeping in touch with the people, making sure everything's okay, making sure that they got the help that they needed, if they needed, a counselor or something like that, or a priest. I do have a friend who's a minister, and he comes in on cases where the people will feel more comfortable with a minister.
A lot of times I say that the case doesn't truly start until after the first investigation. That's where it really gets going, and that bond that you create with that family, you almost become like family in some instances. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that get into this and they don't understand that part of the paranormal, and unfortunately, there's some that don't care.
Yeah, which is a sad thing, because people it's not just the investigation. There's so much more to it than that. Sure, we want to record hard evidence so we can tell the people, here you go. This is what we found. Here's some of the EVPs or whatever. And to help them validate, yeah, you're not crazy. This is what we picked up. This is what we heard. So you're definitely not crazy. There is something here. And then we talk about, what's here and how to help on both sides.
Yeah, in some instances, you almost become like a counselor. And certainly I myself am not a trained counselor, but that family looks to you for answers, and right or wrong, they expect you to be the authority on the subject. So, like I said, there's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders, and it kind of comes with the territory.
Yes, I wish more people would say, okay, this is what you're experiencing. This is what we're going to do to help you and try to resolve the issue. Like I said, I'll sit down and talk to the living and the dead together so that I can relay the messages. And a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, they'll say, okay, we don't mind if you stay. Just don't scare us anymore. They'll move things or knock or something, or touch you. Just don't scare us. It will be good. So have you been to Gettysburg at all?
I have not. I've not been to Gettysburg. I have friends that have been there, and they rave about how wonderful it is. And just from a history point of view, I'd love to visit sometime. But no, I have not been there.
Wendy, she couldn't be with us tonight. She's been to Gettysburg, and she said it's awesome, because she's a big history buff. She loves history. And we went. She took me on a trip last year, early part of last year, and we went to a little place up in Washington. And I didn't know it at the time, but the last known survivor of Little Bighorn is buried up there. And we stayed at the Weinhard Hotel. Henry Weinhard's brother owned the hotel. And there's a lot of activity there, but it's quite interesting, going to the, Civil War stuff, they have people buried from the Civil War and stuff like that. But, it's the history is really awesome. I'd love to go to Egypt because there's bound to be a lot of history there. I love the ancient stuff.
Yeah, I tend to stay away from places that we aren't all that welcome, and I'm not sure we're welcome a lot of places I'd like to go and investigate.
Yeah, that's the problem with the way things are in the Middle East and stuff. it's difficult. I wish that things were better. I wish that there were, people would stop fighting and just learn to get along, because life is short. I last year I went to England again. I had gone in 2017, and I have a lot of history over there. Of course, I went to all the basic places, the Tower of London, Stonehenge, all that sort of stuff. But they have quite a bit of paranormal activity. Of course, you don't, being over there, I was staying with my friends, you don't get a lot of personal, like home hauntings. So you have to do what you can do and see all the sights. That's always interesting over there. But I'm going to go back next year and stay with my friends, and we're probably going to visit some of the lesser known places. I don't want to go to all these tourist places.
Yeah, when I go on vacation and stuff, I kind of leave the paranormal behind. I just want to experience the place, the history, and it's kind of my time away. Like I said, I'm an odd duck when it comes to the paranormal. It's like I'll do the investigations if we're called upon, but if we have a lull and we have a break, I'm just as happy going to a ball game, hanging out with my friends, and the team and I, we get together and we enjoy each other's company. We do other things, and when I can get away from the paranormal, I get away. But yeah, going to places like England, I'd love to go to Ireland. Just places with an immense amount of history. Gettysburg's got to be in there too.
Yeah.
Went to Savannah a few years ago. Beautiful city.
Cool.
The only thing we did ghost related was we went on one ghost walk.
Yeah.
But it was just about seeing the city and the history and all that has to offer. So, yeah, it's just some beautiful areas, and Egypt is beautiful in the pictures that I see, but I don't know. I don't think I'm really ready to take that risk.
Yeah, it's well, the thing is, if I go on a trip or something, it's like usually I go. The first time I went in 2017 to England, I didn't really know anybody there, so my son and I just went and we had a good time. We did all the tourist things. We did all that sort of thing over there, and then I went again last year and stayed with some friends, and it's just it's different when you're not in London. I wish my son and I stayed in London the first time in Greenwich Village, and I was not impressed. But I stayed with my friends in Essex, which is outside London. That's a whole different world, It's kind of more like here, like in Oregon here, it's a lot of, the countryside's a lot like this, green and pastures and stuff like that, which is cool. I like that sort of thing. I live on a farm, so I definitely like the country. I'm not much of a city person.
Yeah, the older I get, the less I want people around. So I think eventually I'll live out in the middle of the country with nobody around me.
Nobody but the dogs. The four-legged fur babies, yes. Yeah, I'll always have dogs. At one time I had 8. When my husband and I first got married, it was a blended family, all fur babies. But I love animals because they're just so lovely. They're so calming, except for the babies. They're 5 months, so they're bouncing off the walls. But they get a little older, they'll be a little bit, less radical.
Judith, Michael, you might have asked your guest a question.
Sure.
I was wondering if you've noticed an increase in your cases, your caseload, because I know a lot of teams seem to have gone away. I know because we look for teams to come on our podcast and talk and stuff, and a lot of the links for the teams are dead. The website's been taken down, and I was wondering if you've noticed in your area if there was an increase over time in your caseload.
The caseload varies. I guess in the last year, I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, we have been busier. I think the same teams exist. I think sometimes teams just kind of, how do I say this? It gets to be they get to a point in the field and they lose interest. And they may still be in the field, they may still investigate, but they're not nearly as active as they were. I got a lot of teams in the area that if they get an email, they send it to me. So I've experienced a lot of that here in the last couple of years. I'm happy to do it. It's nice to be able to help, but it would be nice to have a weekend or two where you can just relax and stare at the TV and take a weekend off. But we pride ourselves on not turning anybody away. So people that reach out to us, we're going to do what we can to help them. And if that ends up, telling them, hey, you don't have anything, then that's what we tell them. But I think a lot of times that can be helpful too. Just giving them logical reasons and letting them know, hey, you're not losing your mind. Because a lot of people, including me, when I first started having activity in the home, I thought I was going nuts. I really did. I thought I was losing my ever-loving mind, and just to know that somebody's out there that'll listen. The first step is listening, and you can go a long way, by just listening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can. It's definitely listen first, and like you say, a lot of times there's a logical explanation for what's happening. Whether it's the house settling, or the refrigerator kicking in, or you have massive EMF from your electrical panel. It's all about ruling out what it's not. And that's important too, so that they know that you're not just automatically assuming it's something paranormal, that you're going to take into consideration whatever they say, and then look for logical explanations. And when you've ruled everything out that's logical, then you have to go, that's normal, then you have to go to the paranormal. And even that is not, a lot of people just, the minute they have any paranormal activity, they freak and say, oh my God, it's something bad. It's doing this or doing that. And it helps in one way because Wendy and I are both, mediums. So it helps us to be able to connect with the soul and say, hey, this is why they're here. This is how they died. And, they just want help. That's all they want is help to move on. Or I went into a case where I was visiting a friend up in La Grande, Oregon, and she says, well, I have this woman that's having problems, and can you come and see what's going on? So the minute I hit the carport, I knew what was there. It's an older gentleman. He died in the house, and he had basically had a heart attack. And so he went into kind of like a form of shock where he, instead of you or I would pass out with shock. And he literally passed out in a way that he went into a black pit, so he didn't realize he was dead. And then once he realized he was dead, he didn't like the way the people, his son and daughter-in-law, rented his home out, and they didn't care for his home the way he cared for his home. And he really didn't like them, so he drove out a lot of people until it came to the couple that were in the house when I went there. And I explained to him, I sat down and explained to him what happened to him, and that these people were going to take care of his home the way he did, and that it was okay for him to move on and not stay there. And so he crossed over once he realized that this couple was and is taking care of his home lovingly the way he did. So it's all about, talking to both sides. Have you ever experienced, have you ever seen an apparition?
I've been doing this 11 years, and I've seen 3. So it doesn't happen every time, but...
That's pretty good for doing it 11 years and seeing 3. Good.
Yeah, people think we see them every investigation.
No, yeah. I know they think that the first thing is like, did you see a ghost? It's like, yes, I saw them, but not the way you mean. The way you mean. I didn't see them with my physical eye. I do see them with my physical eyes, but more, I see them in my third eye. So, but it's kind of neat when you do see them with your physical eye. Then you can, take a picture, capture it on camera, and you can show the clients and say, "Here you go. This is what's in your house. This is the lady that's in your house." And if I can, put a face to, the ghost, so to speak. Yeah,
I like I said, done over 225 of these. Never caught anything on camera or video. It's I think it's one of the toughest things to do. We haven't gotten to that point, and honestly, I don't lose any sleep over it, because we've been able to do some wonderful things for people, and at the end of the day, that's what matters to me. So.
Yeah, all that matters is that the people are happy, and both sides. The spirits are happy, and the people are happy, and you've helped a family, and put their mind at rest, and that goes a long way. I don't care if we get any kind of evidence, because the people know what they feel. The people know what's been happening in their home. And if you can give them validation one way or another, and help them to see that, this is not a scary thing. This is, this is someone that was alive one time, and this was their house. And, they just feel that they love the house and they want to stay, and, that type of thing. And if they agree, then they both live in harmony.
Yeah, I think that's the end goal. I mean, if we can get that for the client, then I think we've accomplished what we wanted to do.
Yeah, a lot of people will say, "Well, do you just go in and make them leave?" And I'm like, "No." I said, they were people too, so they have rights. It's all about free will. Sure, the living have rights, but the dead have rights too, because at one time they were alive, walking and talking. And if it's a haunting, they're still in their physical world mindset. So they're still thinking like a live person. It's that's why you don't go into a home or a business or whatever and provoke. That's disrespectful. You don't be disrespectful. You wouldn't want somebody coming in your house and doing that to you. I tried to remind.
I think about 4 years in, I finally got it, that being the interrogating style of investigator, not provoking, but just asking questions rigidly over and over, and having a game plan didn't work. And really what it came down to was just talking to that spirit like they were in the room with me, developing a relationship with them, a trust, and I think you get a lot further that way.
Oh yeah, it's like you just have to think of them as still being alive, and you just sit down and talk to them and say, really, this is what's going on. How can I help you? Do you want to leave? Do you want to stay? And once they realize that you're not going to force them to do anything that they don't want to, like to leave if they don't want to, then you build up that rapport with them. And, you have to find out if the client doesn't want them there. Okay, then you have to talk to the spirit and say, well, your husband, your wife, your children, your parents, they're missing you on the other side. If you want to see them again, the easiest way is for you to cross, and then you can be with them again. And because I'm sure you're missing them. A lot of times it's all about reasoning with them and letting them know that you're not just trying to oust them, that, you want what's best for them, which would be to see their loved ones. Once they recognize that, like the man that had the heart attack, he didn't want to leave until he realized, my mom and dad are there. My mom and dad are there, my brothers and sisters are there. So, I want to see them again. He decided that the house was not as important as seeing his family. After all, that's what it's all about, family. You have a couple of books. Tell us about your books.
The first book I wrote was called All Roads Lead to the Paranormal, and just was half paranormal, half autobiography. Kind of goes into detail, growing up, losing my father, and my father being the first spirit that I ever encountered, and then to where we are today. And that came out in 2013. 2016, I wrote a continuation of that book, and basically I probably added about 65 pages. So if you read the first one, if you just pick up the second one, you certainly don't need to read the first one, because it's everything is covered in the second one. The second one's called The Endless Road, and again, just really opened up about everything. Opened up about dealing with depression and suicide. And when I did that, it really was therapeutic, and I guess I didn't realize how many people suffer from depression, and how many people that this book would mean something to. And the response, I wasn't ready for it. The response was overwhelmingly positive. People thanked me for touching on the subject. People thanked me for being so open about it, and just making it okay for them to talk about it.
Being a nurse, I know there's a lot of depression, especially in the elderly. They suffer from, depression. Their loved one dies before they do, or they have to leave their home and go into a care facility, and that in itself is depressing for them, because they're leaving everything that they know and going to live with strangers. And it's a big problem in the elderly. I work internal medicine, and we deal a lot with elderly patients. And so you see a lot of that, and you see clients that are like, I'm having thoughts of suicide, and, you try to get them help the best you can, because it's somebody will call me and say, I'm like, are you having thoughts of suicide? They're like, yeah, I'm touching on that. And it's like, so I try to get them, help, a counselor or something right away. If not, then I bring them in so they can discuss it with the doctor. And it's definitely an epidemic, so to speak, in the world today.
Yeah, if people want to get the book, it's on Amazon.com, called The Endless Road. The book came out about 2.5 years ago.
You heard that, people. Go out there to Amazon.com, find Tim's book, and purchase it. It's a worthwhile read. And if you have someone that that has, depression or that type of thing, then get them a copy of the book. Let them know that they're not alone, that there are other people out there who have been through things like this, and they're definitely not alone.
Hey, Jude, it's Michael again. You mind if I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
I was wondering, because a lot of people talk about it, but do you have any particular equipment that you like over something else, or what's your normal equipment range?
We're pretty low tech when it comes to equipment, honestly. I'm one of those people that I would rather be dealing in the moment and not be worrying so much about what particular device is going to make noise or what particular device is going to light up. because at the end of the day, if you pay too much attention looking at that, you're going to miss something that happens in front of your face. So we're pretty low tech. Digital audio recorders, IR cameras. We do take an EMF sweep. We just keep it pretty simple and try not to get in our own way.
Yeah, that's probably best. I know a lot of groups have about every gadget known to mankind. They carry cases and cases of stuff. I think I carry 3 fingers when I go out, but I just wondered because a lot of people use a lot more stuff and some use less. I just thought I'd see how you came down on that. But thank you.
Thank you.
Well, your best detector is your body. I mean, your eyes, your ears, your senses. I mean, that's the best piece of equipment you can take with you. So you have some events coming up, Tim?
I got the Photographs at the Old Mill event coming up in Dundee, Michigan at the Old Mill Museum. Myself, Jessica Johns, Deb and RJ DeRoos, Tim Woolworth, Adam, John Cassidy, myself, and then Dustin Perry also, raising money for the Monroe SPCA. Tickets are available at photographsforpooches.weebly.com. And come out and support the event, and all proceeds go to Monroe SPCA, and hopefully we raise a ton of money for them.
Yeah, that would be nice. I hope so. It's definitely a good cause. We are out here on the West Coast having the Oregon Ghost Conference is being held next month, the 29th, 30th, and 31st. It's like the biggest one in the Northwest, and we have thousands of people stop by from Oregon, Washington, California. And this is the 8th annual one. I'll be lecturing on spirit communication, but it should be fun. It's always fun every year. Tim, I want to thank you for being a guest on my show, and I definitely, people, pick up his book at Amazon.com. Tell us the title of both of your books again, Tim.
The only book that's on sale right now is The Endless Road, and thank you so much for having me.
We loved having you, and God bless you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
The dark side is always there, waiting for us to enter, waiting to enter us. Until next time, try to enjoy the daylight.